Welcome to the Book Flood Podcast. I am your host, Tom Nixon. My guest today is Morgan Walsh. Morgan is the co founder of Open Books. She is an actor, writer, entrepreneur, and mother of three living in Los Angeles. She has worked in film and television for over 20 years, most recently starring in BET's Games People Play. She is also the co founder of 10th Avenue Tea, which won Most Innovative Product by Expo West in 2017.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Very excited that you're here. Why don't we start with you? You have done so many things. Why don't we start first with you giving us a little idea of sort of what your career trajectory has been?
Sure. I started at theater school. I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and moved down to Los Angeles when I was 18 and went to theater school and started working in both production behind the camera and in front of the camera at 18. And, um, did that for many years and then started having children at 27. And as any parent or caregiver will tell you, it was like, gets very busy. So I had one, two, three kids under five. And obviously was with my husband, Matt Walsh, who travels a lot for film and TV himself. So it was very busy for many years. And within that time, I kept trying to think about what can I do that will make the world better for my kids while I'm this busy. What can I do? And I pursued the 10th Avenue Tea. I pursued different things. And then I realized I could do something really close to home with the books. And that's when I reached out to Keiko Feldman, the co-founder of Open Books, because we actually met through that consumer packaged good business, through our food businesses is how we initially met.
So, give us a little more background on how Open Books came into being.
Sure. So, I three kids, as any parent will tell you, all kids are different. And I noticed very early on that our oldest, our firstborn, that there were comments from our community, from people around us, strangers, even at a very early age, if he would put on butterfly wings to do imaginary play or um, would put on my high heels or he had an American Girl doll, for instance. And I just thought it was so interesting because I feel like imaginative play is so key for brain development, right? But I saw that this little boy, even by the most well-meaning of people, would get comments about these choices. And I thought, it doesn't even make sense to me that we would say there's only certain toys or certain colors available, right? And he asked, are there any stories about boys like me? And I said, I'm gonna find some. I bet there are. And this was many years ago. And he also said, are there any other kids like me? And I said, you want me to try to help him find some? And he's like, yeah. And so I went onto Facebook and I looked, and at the time I didn't see anything, and I didn't really have language except for to say gender creative. Like
Mm.
that came from a book, and I thought, okay, that's what I'll type in. And so I started this Facebook page called Gender Creative Kids, and I noticed very quickly that parents in the area started joining. And then we decided to have a meetup, and we would bring things to these meetups. We would bring face paints and books and anything we could bring for the kids to sort of interact with. And very early, we all noticed how the kids interacted with the books. And I didn't find a ton at the time, but I ordered what I could on Amazon without really knowing anything about it. Just ordered what I could. And from there, this group would get together, and I just thought, like, there's something here. And I knew that I, again, wanted to try to make an impact while being very busy. I'm like, what can I do? And then I thought, LAUSD, the teachers had gone on strike. And I thought, if the district doesn't have money to pay their teachers, I bet they don't have money for these pretty new books that I just found. And maybe I can walk across the street and just give them these books, and I can do that at different schools. And it seemed like a very practical but profound way to help a child be seen and heard, where we weren't, informing curriculum, where we weren't doing anything but offering a reflection. The child may or may not relate to it, but just to have them available was the goal. And not to, yeah.
I'm sorry. What do you see as the importance of having LGBTQ books in school?
Well, like the importance of having any human experience or experience available in libraries, it's representation matters. We all know what it feels like. This is something we often say at Open Books. We all know what it feels like to get lost in a story. What might it be like to find yourself in one? That's we need to, you know, see it to be it. All these things, that these phrases that are said, we need to know that there are people that feel the same way that we do, or that our feelings are validated. But also, the data shows that representation in school libraries minimizes bullying. When kids feel safe, they learn better. It's just feeling seen and heard in the world in general, no matter who you are, is essential to a person's sense of belonging and ability to develop healthily. And I called Keiko and I told her that I think I want to deliver books. Would she help me? I can't do it by myself. And she was like, yes, I will help you. Yes. And her kids are a little older than mine. They'd just gone through a district here in Los Angeles and graduated. And she called that district and we started delivering on a district level in 2018. So before it became this sort of hot button issue, you know?
And it has certainly become a hot button issue since then. Uh,
Yeah.
Book banning seems to be something that is landing everywhere, including California.
Yes.
One of the most common group of books seems to be the LGBTQ plus books. Do you have some success stories to share with us?
Well, we definitely feel like any school we get into is a success. But yes, we have a lot of success stories. In fact, more success stories than not. Our experience has been that educators know children. They know the kids that are in their schools. And we always say, like, librarians are angels, library aides are angels, people that are with these kids and advocating for these books, because they see the kids come in at lunch hour and want to hide out, and they want to have materials available for these kids that they can refer the kids to if they need to. So we have many success stories, not as many as we want, but many success stories. We donated to all of Salt Lake City, Utah, which I think is a really big Salt Lake City, Utah school district. That's a big area that maybe somebody would think we wouldn't be able to get into. But again, it's educators that are on the ground and know the kids there and that advocated to have these books. Certainly, LAUSD people consider to be this, very blue or liberal district, but there's actually a huge discrepancy in what schools have available and the attitudes at the schools. But we were able to, donate to over 450 schools in LAUSD, which is a huge undertaking. We had to have 100 volunteers pack the books, and we had to partner with the district. I mean, that's another big part of our approach, is that we partner with school districts, because we're not here to inform the curriculum. We're here to make the books available.
Right.
And these are acclaimed, award-winning stories, right? So we just ask that they be put on the shelves amongst all the other books, alphabetized. That's it. And, the districts that we've worked with are great about honoring that request. There's Milwaukee, and Fresno was we had the most wonderful delivery in Fresno, listening to Bob Nelson talk about why it's important and why that all kids in a school community deserve to feel like they belong, and how we're richer for it, how we're richer for diversity. These are all big wins.
As a former librarian, and I'll have to let Bob know you got a shout out. He'll appreciate that.
We adore him. We
Yeah,
adore him.
for very good reason. For very good reason. I think one of the reasons that open books is so successful is all the libraries get the same books.
Yes.
If I, as a former library services manager, if I had to try to play with that a little bit, it would not go well. But when you say everybody gets them, it's more of a done deal, and I think that's probably true in a place like LA Unified even more so.
Yes. Well, that was born out of a practical need because we are, for many years until just this last week, we are a volunteer powered organization, right? So we needed to have, initially, it was like, how do we keep track of our inventory? And we also didn't want to get in the business of pulling out one book here, one book there that schools said. It was like, this is the set. And it's the Human Rights Campaign Welcoming Schools endorsed this list. We stand by it, and we're not going to get in the business of pulling it apart, and that's been key.
Absolutely. How do most school donations happen?
Sure, they happen in all different ways because different school districts have different requirements, and it's evolved over time. So in the beginning, we're pursuing school districts. We're emailing, we're asking one school district to introduce us to the next. And then at some point, we did make available on our website, openbooks.org, a place where book requests could be done. And then we have to make sure that whoever it is that's requesting the book has the permission to do so through the district. But we basically try to make sure that we have the amount of books that matches the district that we're donating to. And we want to make sure that those books have the permission top down to be in the libraries. So whether it's the superintendent or the head of curriculum or the if the district is lucky enough to have a DEI department, um, it could be through them. But we just make sure that those books are reviewed and approved and ready to go on the shelves in their entirety. And that way, the messaging all the way down, like you pointed out, it makes your job easier too. If someone's saying, these are the books, they go on the shelves. It probably protects you as well.
Yes, that is no doubt true. One of the things that I saw on my end was these are books that can be checked out, but often or not, these are books that they don't want to take back to the classroom, don't want to take home for a variety of reasons, but they still have access. And for me,
Yeah.
access is key.
Access is key. We are with you. There, right now, very intentionally, we've been donating to elementary schools. So a lot of the books are, not a lot of them, but many of them are picture books. They can be read quickly. And they are stories about, a bird that can't quite find its flock, or a mislabeled crayon, or, they're books about feelings. And it is great that a child can come into a library. Libraries are so important in schools and in our communities, but that a child can come in and have access to that book and not have to go to an LGBTQ section, or to a mental health office as if there was something to be treated.
It's just a story, you know?
What advice do you have for schools or libraries who want to receive a book donation?
Would you repeat the question?
Hmm. What advice do you have for schools or libraries who want to receive a book donation?
Sure, please reach out to us, openbooks.org. Our emails, our contact information is there on the website. Um, it can be a process to make sure that educators are able to review the book sets, the book list that we donate, which it does evolve as not each year, but depending on new books that are coming out, because we really like the books to be current and, in fact, books that maybe they don't have access to already. So it does evolve, but that they would be able to have the chance to review the books. And then we get we begin that process of being able to just make sure that we have enough book sets for every elementary school in that district. And then we coordinate with them to make it happen.
Do you have future plans for open books?
Our big development, which we've been waiting for a long time, because our first delivery district-wide was in 2018, and here we are, 2024. But our big development is our first executive director has come on board. And we spent last week, Keiko Feldman and just Karin and myself, we're plotting for all the things that we'd like to have happen. We'd certainly love to be in Chicago public schools within the year. That's sort of where we've set our sights. But to be able to hire more folks, to be able to find ways to ignite people in the communities where we are donating, to have a convening of our board, and to really develop our relationships with publishers and authors. There's so many things, the power of story. There's so many directions that this organization could go in. And it's just about growing at the right pace, and really letting people know about us, which is why being able to be on this podcast with you is so helpful.
So, for young Morgan, was there a book or series of books in your childhood that you appreciated that still resonates with you?
For me, it was the autobiography, or not the autobiography, the biography of Helen Keller. I loved it. It was a paperback, and it got completely worn through. It even taught like the alphabet, the sign language alphabet in the back through pictures. And I think I carried it around with me for a couple of years. I loved it. And, that's the feeling. Was there one for you?
So they're the children's books I've read in adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Potter series, those sorts of things. But in my youth, Johnny Tremaine by Esther Forbes, I read that Helen Keller book, I'm sure, because I remember reading a book just like that. I was a voracious reader to the exclusion of other core content. I would rather read than do math, and so there were times in class where I read and didn't do math. But
I co-sign that.
right, that didn't stand me in good stead come high school, though. But yes. What are you reading now?
The book that I actually had already completed it, but then I keep going back through it, most recently, is called The Creative Act, A Way of Life, by Rick Rubin. My favorite is nonfiction. I did recently finish one fiction book called All Fours by Miranda July, but The Creative Act, A Way of Life, I'm really grateful to have come upon it. It helps me in so many areas of my work. And, one of the things he talks about is like knowing people, how to know yourself, how to get connected with that voice, and then how to know other people. And that feels like one of the through lines of the work we do at Open Books. We love the power of story, the human condition, and we all benefit, especially in a democracy, from a variety of stories, from celebrating the richness of our culture.
I want to thank you, Morgan, for coming on the podcast. For our listeners, we will have a link to Open Books in the show notes. Also, if you can like, subscribe, and share the Book Flood podcast wherever you listen to us, that would be greatly appreciated. Again, thank you, Morgan.
Thank you, Tom. And I'm going to talk to you offline. I want to talk to you about all things school libraries.